Okay, today's daf is Masechta Sanhedrin Daf Nun Daled. So let's just discuss what we're going to discuss today. Very interesting topics for today. Uh, if you could hold on. Hi, Lewis. We just began. Today is Masechta Sanhedrin Daf Nun Daled. We'll start from the top line. What we're discussing is over here. Let's say by accident, I say specifically by accident, someone sleeps with his mother, thinking it's his wife. Okay, I don't know. You think about that. He sleeps with his mother. So, what kind of avera did he get? How many punishments did he get? So we learned in the Mishnah. Let's just go to the Mishnah over here. Going to make it big in on the screen, which is on Daf Nun Gimel Amud Aleph. The Mishnah says, "Haba al ha'ain," someone who sleeps with his mother. Chayiv aleha mishum ain. He's liable because he's sleeping with his mother. Umishum eishes av. And because the Torah says that you're not supposed to sleep with the wife of your father. So your mother presumably is the wife of your father, assuming that the father died. Okay, so it's not an Ashish Ish, but your mother has two Isurim on her. One, she's your mother, and two, she was once the wife of your father, even if she wasn't your mother. So that's the opinion of the Rabbanim. Rabbi Yehuda Omer ein chayev elo mishum ha'ein bilvad. If you can see on your screen, he's only chayev because he's sleeping with your mother, but you get off on the violation of sleeping with the wife of your father. Why do I say you did this by accident? Because if you did it on purpose, either way you're going to get death penalty. So what's the difference? You get one death penalty or two death penalties, you're still going to die. But if you did it by accident, you thought you're sleeping with your wife and you ended up sleeping with your mother. So now you have to know how many averis did you do that you'll have to bring a carbon chatas for. So according to the Tanna Kama, you have to bring two. One because of your mother, and one she's the wife of your father. Rabbi Yehuda says if you sleep with your mother, you only chayev because of one avera, and you only bring one carbon chatas. What's the machlokes all about? So if you look on the screen, it's this pasuk over here, ervas avicha. First, the Torah says in Parshas Achri Ma'is, where it tells you not to all the arayas. It says in the second pasuk, ervas eishes avicha loisagala, don't sleep with the wife of your father. Ervas avicha he. It belongs to your father. It's something designated for your father. Fine. So there it says clearly not to sleep with the wife of your father. Here, the Torah tells you when it comes to your mother, ervas avicha, the erva of your father, the ervas imcha loisagal, don't sleep with your mother. Presumably, what does ervas avicha mean? So what we can assume the way Rabbi Yehuda is going to learn that ervas avicha means the erva of your wife of your father, or the ervas of your mother loisagal, don't sleep with them. What happens if you do? Imchehi, you'll only get one violation of sleeping with your mother. You're not going to get the violation of Eishes Avicha. So you're only chayev one carbon. That is the way Rabbi Yehuda is going to learn. But the Chachamim are going to learn that Ervas Avicha means not to sleep with your father means homosexual. That's what the Torah is telling you. Don't sleep with your father, homosexual. We already says, the Pasuk says not to have homosexuality. So when you sleep with your father, so then you get two averis, two violations. But if you sleep with your mother, if you sleep with your mother, Rabbanan will say, you'll get also two violations. One because it's ervas imcha, and one it's because ervas eishes avicha. Now let's read the Gemara. The Gemara begins on Daf Nun Dalet, and all these Gemaras that we're talking about over here is a source. Now, one of the things that you have to know is there's a source that you have to know that you get a violation. Plus, the Torah has to tell you if you do this violation, you get a punishment. So you need both, a warning and a punishment. Plus, you have to know the three possibilities associated with your father. Your father's wife, even if it's not your mother, but somehow it could be your mother, not your father's wife. How is that possible? If your father raped somebody and didn't do kedushin, and you were born, so then that mother, even though it's not your father's wife, you're also not allowed to have relations with. So all this we need to discuss sources, and that's the whole point of this Gemara. Tanya Kavasi the Rava, the Rice says like Rava, ish prat l'katan. It excludes a katan that sleeps with his mother is not in the violation of sleeping with your mother. Why would I think that way? It's another problem. Maybe because the mother gets punished, so you would think the katan gets punished. Son. A person who sleeps with the wife of his father. Now, we're not quoting the pasuk that I showed you on the screen. We're quoting another pasuk of the in the violations. So the way to read it, the punishments, the way to know in Parshas Achri Moshe, the Torah tells you don't sleep with so and so. Then in Parshas Kedoshim will tell you if you do, you're going to get the death penalty. So here it says aviv ervas aviv gila moimsum shushneim demeim bam. So that's the pasuk. So we darshan aviv, if you sleep with your father's wife. Mashma bein eishes avav sheyimai, bein eishes avav shaloi imai. It doesn't matter if it's your real mother, or if it's not your real mother, if it's not your stepmother, as long as it's your father's wife. Imai she'ena eishes avav menayim. Let me again ask you a question. How will I know that if you sleep with your mother, that's not your father's wife? Again, your father was ma'anas somebody and you were born. How do you know that you're held accountable? Talmud loyme ervas aviv gilav. There's an extra word ervas aviv mufna. That word is extra. Hakish lodim imen exer shava. We're going to learn exer shava. That here it says in the pasuk, as you can see on the screen, ervas aviv gila. And and this is talking about the punishment. By the violations, it clearly implies that even if it's not the wife of your father, but it's still your mother, you're still held in violation. You still get the violation. So therefore, even if it's if it's your mother, but you're not your wife of your father, you will get a punishment. But we'll see more about that in a moment. Mon sumsu. So if you sleep with your mother or your wife of your father or your mother who's not your wife of your father, my sumsu. What are you going to get? Skila. The Torah tells you get the death penalty. The Torah doesn't tell you what kind of death penalty. How do you know? Maybe it's one of the other death penalties of the Torah. It says the blood is on you. Their blood's on you. And if it is a violation by the punishment by oiv and yadoinin, two types of magicians who bring up the dead, who call up the dead, if you do that, if you practice that, you get the death penalty of skila. So since it says the bomb, and that's a lot of them, it really doesn't say skila by the rayas, but we know by oivi yadoni it does say the bomb and skila, malahalan skila, just like by oivi yadoni we know for sure it's skila. Avkan skila. So also if you sleep with these women, your mother, your wife of your father, or your mother is not the wife of your father, you get skila. So now. Oynesh shamanu, like I tell you, it's very good. You told me I get a punishment. Azor minayim. Where did the Torah say that you're not allowed to do that? Talmud loyma. Now we go to Parshas Achrei. Ervas avicha loisagale. Don't sleep with your father. Ervas avicha. Don't sleep with your father. Well, how are you sleeping with your father? So according to Rabbi Yehuda, ervas avicha zu eishes avicha means don't sleep with the wife of your father. Maybe the Torah is telling you don't sleep with your father. How do you know it means to sleep with the wife of your father? Because in the next pasuk it says nervas kam. No, we have a gezerah shava. Nema kan ervas avicha loisagala. V'nema ervas aviv gila. It says by the punishment ervas aviv gila. So if you can see it on your screen, it says ervas aviv gila by the punishment, and it says ervas avicha by the warnings, just like the ervas by the punishment. It's eishes. You see eishes. It says eishes. So therefore, ervas avicha must be talking about it's your father's wife. So. It's talking about really your father's wife. Okay. It doesn't matter if it's your wife's father, that it's your wife's, if your wife's the wife of your father, if it's your mother, or even if it's not your mother, it's your stepmother. But what happens if your mother, how do you know that if it's your mother, but it's not the wife of your father, how do you know you're not allowed to sleep with that woman? Talmud loyma ervas imcha loisagala. Torah repeats it at the end of the pasuk. It says, don't sleep with your mother. Loisagala ervas imcha loisagala. So what is that talking about? Even imay, that teaches you that even if it's your mother and it's not the wife of your father, you're still in the violation. So now we go back. Ainli ela bahazara. Also akasav imoy she'enu eishasav ki imoy she'yas a mother that's not your wife of your father, by the violation, the Torah tells you that it's the same as sleeping with your mother, who is the wife of your father. They're both just one and the same. But that's only by the violation. Oynish manayim. But how do you know by the punishment if you sleep with the wife, with your mother, who's not the wife of your father? How do you know you're going to get the punishment of skila? So then we have that Gezer Sova that I spoke about before. Nerma kam ervas avicha loy sagala. V'nerma lahalam by the punishment ervas aviv gila. Ma bazar also hakasav imay sheine eishes aviv ki imay she eishes aviv. Apoinish also hakasav imay sheine eishes aviv ki imay she eishes aviv. So just like by the violation, there's no difference. If it's your mother, it doesn't matter if it's your wife's. If it's the wife of your father, you're still in the violation. So also in the punishment, it doesn't matter if it's your mother, the wife of your father, or if it's not the wife of your father, but it's still your mother. You're going to get the punishment of skila. Fine. Now, why does the Torah repeat imchahi? You see, imchahi right over here. I should have highlighted in blue. Let's get highlighted in blue. Imchahi. The Torah tells you don't sleep with your mother. Imchahi, it's your mother. What do you learn from imchahi? So we darshan. If you sleep with your mother and it happens to be the wife of your father, so you would think you get two violations, and therefore if you did it by accident, how many karbanos should you bring? Two. Comes along Rabbi Yehuda, it says, no, you only bring one carbon. That is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbanan, who say you bring two karbanos, how do they learn? They learned that the Ervas Avich in the beginning of the pasuk, and this is the key, the Ervas Avich in the beginning of the pasuk you see on your screen, that's not talking about sleeping with the wife of your father. That's talking about sleeping with your father himself. And Ervas Avich mamash. Frag the Gemara, why would the Torah tell you can't sleep with your father? We have another pasuk that says, and we're gonna learn more about this pasuk later on in today's daf. But the a male should not be sleeping with another male like you would sleep with a woman. So I have a pasuk not to sleep homosexuality. And says the Gemara, if a person sleeps with his father, according to Rabbanan, the chayv l'shtayim, you get two averos. Rabbi Yehuda, like Rabbi Yehuda said, the Amar Rabbi Yehuda said, Rabbi Yehuda did not want to say a Jew sleeps with his father, but so he used the expression nochri, a goy haba of it, a goy that sleeps with his father. Chayv shtayim, he gets two averos. Haba al achi aviv, and here the Torah clearly says if you mizana with your uncle, the brother of your father, chayiv shtaim, you also get two. And this is from a pasuk zochar the ervas avicha lo segala. The Torah really clearly says if you sleep with your uncle, you get two averos of homosexuality. There, the Torah clearly outright says it, but the father, it's not so clear. But anyway, Amar Rava said, Mistava Milsa Rabbi Yehuda be Yisrael, that the whole point of Rabbi Yehuda telling you get two averas versus one avera is b'shoygig b'karga, because we're dealing with what happens if you do it by accident. The person slept with his father by accident. How many karbanos should you bring? Two. Behind the common Nachri, the reason why Rabbi Yehuda wanted to say a Nachri that slept with his father, Lishnam al Yahu, he wanted to say a higher superior language. He didn't want to say out of his mouth that a Jew slept with his father. So let it be. If he actually really meant a goy, dina mani, what could a guy happen if he sleeps with his father? Even if he did it, if there's no carbon, so if he must have done it on purpose. So katala betray katala. What do I care if he gets two mises or one mises? You can't kill a person twice. So he was talking about a goy. Tanya name hochi. That's exactly what we learned. Haba al aviv, someone who's mizana with his father, chayiv shtayim, you get two averis. Haba al chi aviv, someone who sleeps with his uncle, chayiv shtayim, you get two averis. So this brisa clearly goes according to Rabbi, not like Rabbi Yehuda, like the Rabbanim, because only the Rabbanim learned that that the ervas avicha refers to sleeping with your father, with having relations with your father directly. So only according to Rabbanan you get two averas. Others say, I feel the tema Rabbi Yehuda. You could say these brises go on Rabbi Yehuda. And even Rabbi Yehuda would hold sleeping with your father, you get two averas, but not because the pasuk says it. It's because I could figure it out on my own without the pasuk saying it. that you get a kal v'chomer from your uncle. Ma'achir haviv. If you sleep with your uncle, the kurva the aviv, who it's only a relative. It's only a relative to you because it's related to your father. Chayiv shtayim. You get two averis. Aviv like kolshkein. So certainly, if you sleep with your father, you certainly get two averis. V'komi palgi beplukta Rabbi Rava, and Rabbanan and Rabbi Huda are arguing exactly what Rabbi Rava. According to Rabbi Huda, you learn it out from the Kal V'Chaima. According to Rabbanan, you can't learn it out from the Kal V'Chaima. The Torah has to clearly tell you you're not allowed to sleep with your father. Mar Sava Ein Sheminadim. Rabbi Huda holds you can actually find a violation and figure out a violation, even if the Torah didn't say it, but if you can figure out from a Kal V'Chaima, that's good enough. Rabbanan, but the Mar Sava, the Rabbanan hold Ein Sheminadim. You don't punish somebody from a Kal V'Chaima. Fine. Says the Gemara, V'Rabbanan as ora le'eshes aviv menalahu. How do I know you're not allowed to sleep with the wife of your father? If nafkele, because if ervas aviv means ervas avika means sleeping with your father directly, homosexual, so then where do you know you're not allowed to sleep with the wife of your father, even if it's not your mother? That's the next pasuk. Ervas eshes avika. So that's Gemara. Hahu masef Rabbana azar leishim nalav. Nafkelu me ervas eshes avika loisa galit. Rabbi Yehuda, what he does with that pasuk? Hahu mebayile leishes aviv la'acham yisa. That means that what that pasuk teaches you, that even after your father died, it still get considered the wife of your father. You would only think it's the wife of your father as long as your father is alive. No. It's the wife of your father long after your father died. She will always remain usher to you as the wife of your father. So your stepmother is forever usher to you. Rabbanan, Rabbanan learned that idea, that your father always remains around even after he dies, so his wife remains usher. So Rabbi Huda, what does Rabbi Huda do with the Ervas Avichahi? That means that if you sleep with your stepmother and your father is still married to her, so you would think that you get two averis. One, you're sleeping with you're doing adultery with a married woman, plus it's the wife of your father. So you get two averis. Comes along Rabbi Yehuda, in that case, you won't get the avera of Eishes Ish, you will only get the avera of Eishes Av. Says the Gemara, V'anan Tanan, but so that's what Rabbi Yehuda learns, and obviously Rabbanan disagree. They hold that you get two averas. Freg the Gemara, V'anan Tanan, we learned in a Mishnah, our Mishnah, Habal Eishes Av, someone who's Mazana with his stepmother, Chayv Alem Mishum Eishes Av, Mishum Eishes Ish. You get two averas. One because he's sleeping with the wife of your father, and one because he's sleeping with an Eishes Ish. Bein b'chaya ava, bein lacham yisava. Whether your father is still around, you're going to get two averas, because Eishes Av and Eishes Ish. Bein lacham yisava, obviously after your father died, she's still an Eishes Av, you're not going to get the Eishes Ish. But while your father's alive, you get two averas. But like Paul Rabbi Yehuda didn't argue in our Mishnah. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you should only get Eishes Av when your father's around, and not Eishes Ish. Rabbi, you're right. Paul Babraisa. Rabbi Yehuda would argue in the Brisa. In the Brisa, he clearly says that if you sleep with the wife, your stepmother, while your father is still married to her, you'll only have one punishment, one carbon. Says the Gemara. Now Gemara goes further to elaborate on Rabbanan. Rabbanan oinish deishes of lachamisa menalahu. How do I know the punishment of sleeping with your father after sleeping with your stepmother after your father died? In other words, you could find the violation that you're not allowed. The Torah tells you not to sleep with your stepmother after your father died, but how do you know that you get a punishment? You get skila for that. Bishlam Rabbi Yehuda Ma'aseh b'shegeg shava. Rabbi Yehuda has a gzeir shava that equates the punishment. It equates the violation to the punishment. So therefore, if you have the in the violation, you automatically have the punishment. El Rabbanan menalhu. Where do you see that? Amar lecha. Rabbanan will say, "Who ervas aviv gila." The mapik le Rabbi Yehuda gzeir shava. So mapik lehu le l'einish deishes aviv lachamisa. It says ervas aviv gila by the punishments. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, uses it for gzeir shava. The Rabbanan will specifically use it to punish your stepmother long after your father died, because it will always remain the erva of your father. Now the Gemara asks one last question. how do we know that you get a punishment for your mother that's not the wife of your father? It's your mother, right? And imchahi, you're not allowed to sleep with your mother, even if your father was never married to her. But how do you know you're going to get skila if you sleep with your mother like that? Amar Rav Sheshem Dervi, Amakra imchahi. Asa kosev leimoy sheini eishes aviv ki imoy she eishes aviv. The Torah says, no matter what, your mother is your mother, even if it's not the wife of your father, and therefore you will get a punishment. You will get a punishment, not only a violation, but also a punishment for sleeping with your mother, even if it's not your father's wife. Bottom line is, uh, you have to know that this machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanan, and it all determines on how to interpret this word ervas avicha. Does it mean not to sleep with your father directly, or does it mean not to sleep with the wife of your father? Next, the Gemara continues. Haba kalasa. If you sleep with your daughter-in-law. So now let's read that pasuk. Ervas kaloska loisagala eishes binchehi loisagalas erfasa. The pasuk says, "Don't sleep with your daughter-in-law because it's the wife of your son." So maybe you get two averas for sleeping with your daughter. One, it's called your kala, your daughter-in-law, and plus it's the wife of your son. So how do you know you get one avera? Amar Abaya pasach chasam bekalosay v'sayim be'eshes b'soy loymelecha zui kalosay zui eshes b'noy. You have to read the pasuk this way: Erevas kalos kaloy. Don't sleep with your kala. What is called the kala? Eshes bincha, the wife of your son. So it's just a translation of what kala is, and maybe you should always look at your daughter-in-law as if she just got married. So it's a lesson from the Chumash on how to treat your daughter-in-laws. Anyway, let's go next Mishnah. Mishnah says habo al hazocher if you have some homosexuality, vala behema, and here it doesn't matter if let's call it by the homosexuality. There's one is the giver, and one man is the receiver. He's acting like the woman. So both of them are in that violation. They get skila. Vala behema, if someone is a giver to a behema or a receiver from an animal, so then you get the violation, you get the skila. For isha hamaviyas a behema, so a woman that brought an animal onto her, skila, all these, the woman gets skila and the animal gets skila also. So the Gemara Mishnah asks, "Im Adam chata behema machata." Why should you give skila to the poor animal? What did the animal know what it was doing? Ella, because the answer is since a mishap happened to a human being because of it, therefore the Torah tells it to you stone the animal. Dovar achar, another pshat, the Torah was concerned about the shame of the human being, and if you're going to kill the human being, like say you kill the woman, and the animal you let loose, so people will find the animal and say, "Oh, this was the animal that so and so got killed because of it." And the Torah was concerned about the honor, the self-respect of even a dead person, and therefore we stone the animal, so that the animal shouldn't be walking the street, and that people will say, "This is the animal that so and so was killed and stoned because of it." Zacham and Allah, and how do you know you get a punishment? That if you get a punishment for sleeping homosexuality. The Tanur Rabbanan, the pasuk says, I'm going to read you the pasuk. The ish the zacha. Here it is. The ish asher yishka v'zacha mishke ve'isha te'eu asher shneim ma'ishu musu demeim bam. You see, the Torah doesn't tell you how you kill if you do mishkav zachar, but the Torah says demeim bam, and we're going to have that gezeira shava to oivi and daini that you get skila. So the Tanur Rabbanan ish prat lekatan. A katan that sleeps with another human being, so the katan is not going to get the punishment. It's only the other. Let's say the katan was the giver, so then the receiver is going to get the punishment, the skila. Asher yitzka v'zachar ben gadol ben katan. That doesn't matter if the giver is a gadol and the receiver is a katan, so then also the violation of mishkevei zachar is there. Mishkevei isha. The way you sleep with a woman. Now, the only way to sleep with a zachar is through the back, right? So why does it tell you that the way you sleep with a woman? It's obvious that there's only one way to sleep with a zachar. So we don't need it to teach you by mishkevei zachar is a problem. That to sleep with the arayas, you get there's two ways to do it, one through the front and one through the back. Even through the back, you get the same misa. Rabbi Shmuel, Areza Balalamid. This was supposed to teach you about Mishkav Zacha, that it's through the back. Vinim Lamed, but that was obvious. So I don't need it to teach you that Mishkav Zacha is through the back. It's teaching you that Mishkav Isha is through the back. And any arayas that the Torah says, let's say, don't sleep with the aunt, is, or any other arayas, sister, it's through the front or through the back. Maisum, so the Torah says if you do homosexuality, you get skila. Maybe it's another death penalty. So we have that gezerah shava. So that's both beskila. We go to Amid Beis. So now you told me the clear punishment. How do I know that? How do I know? How do I know that? How do I know that the violation? So again, the violation, the punishments are always in Parshas Kedoshim. The violation is in Parshas Achimois. The Torah tells you a male should not sleep with a mishkevei isha, and that's disgusting. The Torah tells you don't do that. Lamanu azara, but that only teaches you l'shaychif, the giver. Azara l'nishka b'naim. Like I said, the receiver, the one that the man that's acting like the woman, how do you know he gets the violation? Talmud loymar. So here we have an outside pasuk to teach you that. The pasuk says lo yiyeh kodesh b'nei Yisrael, that there should not be a woman that's set up to be a whore. So there's no zayna, the receiver for a woman. And v'gam kodesh yiyeh v'chol aretz asur kol hatevis hagoyim asher hoirish. So it's the word to'eva appears by the word kodesh in Malachim. So it's almost as if the Torah says lo yiyeh kodesh to'eva, because this is also a to'eva, a woman who's a zayna. So then, and there the woman is the receiver. So wherever it says to'eva, it also doesn't refer to the giver only, like it also refers to the receiver. Divrei Rabbi Shmuel. This is the opinion of Rabbi Shmuel. So Rabbi Shmuel has an outside pasuk, another pasuk that teaches you another violation to teach you that a male to be on the receiving end is also in violation of mishkav zachar, homosexuality. Rabbi Kiva Omer, I don't need a separate pasuk to teach you that. Harehu Omer, the pasuk says, "V'zochar leisiskav mishkavei isha." The Torah tells you that don't sleep with a male should not sleep with like a woman sleeps. Kariv Bey, we can read it loy sishachev. Don't be the one that's lying down. In other words, the one on the bottom. So who's the receiver, so to speak. So that's the violation. Another minute and then we'll stop. So Nemakam, let's just do, we're going to go just a little bit, another minute. Behema Manolan. How do we know you're not allowed to sleep with an animal? How do you know? The Tanur Rabbanan, rabbis taught, again, there's a violation, there's a punishment pasuk. What's the punishment pasuk? The pasuk that says, the pasuk says, "The isha sheyitin shchaftei be'ha'is tumasu v'esbehema taraygu." Kill the animal and don't sleep with an animal. And the Torah doesn't tell you what's going to happen to you. Moisumas. The Torah just tells you you're going to die. So sleeping with an animal. Tanur Rabbanan, ish prat lakotin ashit nishchaftei be'behema ben gdoil ben ketana. It doesn't matter if the animal is just a newborn. You're not allowed to sleep with that animal. You're not allowed to be a receiver or a giver to that animal. Moisumas, if you sleep with an animal, on both sides of the coin, moisumas, you're going to get skila. Maybe you get another misa. Nebakam taharoyu. It says you're going to get killed, that the animal gets killed. By maces, it says the word targenu. So there's a gzeira shava that teaches you that if you have bestiality with an animal, you're going to get skila. Lamanu einish. So that tells you what you're going to get. L'shoichet. Einish l'nishka bedalet. How do you know that you're going to get if you're a receiver? How are you going to get the punishment? The Talmud Bavli there we have another pasuk. Kol shoichiv mehema moishumas. If you're going to be a receiver from an animal, so then moishumas you're going to get the death penalty. The Torah tells you don't sleep with the animal, don't be the giver. But I know that from another pasuk. Don't be the receiver from the animal. Now I know that you get a punishment. You get the skila if you're going to be sleeping with an animal or receiving from an animal. Azar menayim. Here we conclude. From that pasuk, according to Rabbi Shmuel, you're going to only see the violation. You get a violation not to be a giver to an animal. How do you know you're violating if you're a receiver from an animal? Torah told you you're going to get punished, but the Torah didn't tell you the violation. So Rabbi Shmuel has another pasuk that teaches you a separate pasuk that teaches you that don't be a receiver from an animal, and if you do that, you get the violation. And finally, Rabbi Kiva the Torah says, don't be a receiver. Don't allow somebody to give something to you. Don't be a passive receiver from an animal. So we see from there that there's a violation for both being a giver to an animal and a receiver from an animal. Okay, I'm going to pause over here. Okay. Now we are at we have a machlokes between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva between if you're on the receiving end of a mishkav zachar or of an animal. Is it you learn it from the pasuk, or do you learn it from a separate outside pasuk? According to Rabbi Shmuel, you learn it from an outside pasuk, and according to Rabbi Kiva, the pasuk of mishkavei zachar and the pasuk of behema imply don't be on the receiving end. So now the Gemara says, someone is the giver to another male, and he's a receiver from a different male at the same time. You get two averos. Chadam and loisishkav, chadam lemsliyev the Divrei Rabbi Kiva, according to Rabbi Kiva, you only get one. That's just one. It's within the pasuk of don't have a mishkavei zachar. It implies don't be a giver and don't be a receiver. Now, nafkamina number two. Someone is mizana with an animal and brings the animal to him. So he's a giver to an animal and a receiver from an animal. Maybe it could be a different animal, but he's doing it at the same time. Amar Ababo, the Divrei Bishmo Chayiv Shtaim, you get two averes. Chadam l'sin nishchafta, v'chadam l'yeh kodesh, because it's two different lavim. One to not to be a giver, and one not to be a receiver. The Divrei Rabbi Kiva ein chayiv al achas, nechayiv al achas. You only get one avera. Shechafta shivasa chadahi. It's one avera within the, and if you're doing it at one time, so you get one avera of don't be a giver receiver. So again, if you give a receiver at the same time, since you're doing at the same time you're doing one lav, so according to Rabbi Kiva you get one. According to Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Shmuel you're going to get two. Abaye says Rabbi Shmuel even according to Rabbi Shmuel you only get one. Why? Because Rabbi Shmuel seem to imply that to be a receiver from an animal it's from loyia kodesh. That says don't be a receiver from a human being, like a male human being. But to be a receiver from an animal, that's not. So then, then where do you know not to be a receiver from an animal? Where does Rabbi Shmuel know that? And if it says the Gemara, Nafkale, he will learn it from Kol Shoichiv and if you sleep with an animal, you get the death penalty. Since you already know you're not allowed to sleep with an animal, so it must be you're not allowed to be a receiver for an animal. Then why did the Torah say kol nishkav in behema moisumas? Don't be a receiver. Why did the Torah tell you don't be a giver to an animal? Just like being a giver, we have the punishment and we have the violation. Nishkav, to be a receiver, we consider it that we have the punishment, and vihizer, even though it doesn't say it in the violation, we'll say as if it says it in the violation. Now, finally, this is the third case. If you receive it for an animal, and then you receive it for a male, right? So you're a receiver. So Amar Abol, you get two averes. Chadam l'shishkav, cham l'shishkav. The one for doing it for an animal, one for doing it one's for doing it for a human being with another male, being a receiver from another male, and one being a receiver from another animal. Rabbi Shmuel, you only get one. Because both of them are from Lo Kodesh. Being a receiver from an animal and being a receiver from a male is from Lo Kodesh. Again, Abaye says, "Afilu Rabbi Shmuel, Name Chayv Shtayim." You're going to get two. Why? Because the Chi Siv Shchal Shevim Behema Moisimas meaning the Shechem Etain Yishkav. So you're going to get two. So he says that Rabbi Shmuel never meant to say that Lo Kadesh it means don't be a receiver from an animal and don't be a receiver from another male. It's just about don't being a receiver from another male, but from an animal is another pasuk. The pasuk says Kol Shechiv Behema implies don't be a receiver from an animal, and therefore if you do it with if you're a receiver from a male and you receiver from a animal, you get two averis. Finally, the Gemara concludes the fourth thing is he was a giver to another male and he receiver from another male, and then habal behema he received from an animal, he gave to an animal. And he brought an animal to him. Bein Rabbabol, Bein Rabbayat, Rabbi Shmuel, Chai Shalish. According to Rabbi Shmuel, you're going to get three violations. Why? Two for the giving to a male, being a receiving from a male, so that's two, and being a giver and a receiver from an animal, that's one violation. So you get three. Rabbi Kiva Chayv Shtayim, because don't do it with a male is one violation. Don't be a giver and a receiver, and don't be a giver and a receiver from an animal. So therefore, you'll only get two violations. So that's the end of the Gemara on Nun Daled.